detachment, not desperation. When you no longer need to control the outcome, you gain control over yourself. And that's when the market finally loses its power to hurt you. Most traders spend their energy trying to master the market. The few who succeed spend their energy mastering their reactions to it. Because once you've trained your mind to stay calm in uncertainty, every market becomes your ally. Every chart becomes feedback. Every trade, win or lose, becomes a step toward freedom. The 90% play the game to avoid pain. The 10% play it to understand it. The difference isn't intelligence, strategy, or luck, it's mindset. And the moment you commit to mastering that, you're already leaving the 90% behind. Every trader begins with excitement, belief, and the illusion of control. You step into the market armed with charts, strategies, and the conviction that you've found the edge others don't see. You convince yourself that your intellect, your preparation, or your system will protect you from losses. But sooner or later, the market strips all that away. It doesn't care how hard you studied, how confident you are, or how sure you feel about a setup. It exposes something much deeper, your relationship with uncertainty, fear, and ego. That's when the truth begins to emerge. The market doesn't beat you, your mind does. The market has no agenda. It's not against you, nor is it for you. It moves because countless human decisions collide in real time, each driven by fear, greed, and expectation. Price is nothing more than a reflection of human behavior. So when you lose, it isn't because the market turned against you, it's because your reactions did. You allowed emotion to interpret randomness as personal significance. You took what should have been data and made it a statement about your worth. That's how most traders lose, not because the setup failed, but because they couldn't manage the storm inside their own head. When a trader looks at the screen, what they see isn't the market, it's a projection of their beliefs.
Order submitted.
If you believe the market is dangerous, every fluctuation looks like a threat. If you believe opportunity is always slipping away, every move against you feels like a betrayal. Your brain begins to create narratives to protect you from discomfort. I'll just hold a little longer. It has to come back. The market is manipulating retail traders. These aren't trading decisions. They're emotional defenses disguised as logic. The market merely presents probabilities. Your mind turns them into stories. Losing traders constantly fight the market because they're really fighting themselves. They can't accept being wrong. They interpret a losing trade as a personal failure rather than an expected cost of doing business. And because they can't separate identity from outcome, they avoid pain at all costs. Ironically, that avoidance multiplies the pain. They hold losers too long, exit winners too early, and make irrational trades trying to get back what was lost. Each reaction deepens the emotional imprint until trading becomes psychological warfare rather than strategic execution. The few who reach consistency understand something fundamental. Control is an illusion.
Order filled.
You can control your behavior, but not the market.
You
You can control your risk, but not the outcome. When you accept this truth, you free yourself from the toxic need to be right. You stop trying to predict and start learning to respond. The market no longer defines you, it informs you. Each trade becomes feedback, not judgment. Each outcome becomes data, not emotion. That's the beginning of mastery. Think about this. Every chart, every candle, every move carries uncertainty. Yet some traders remain calm while others panic. Why? Because calmness isn't created by market stability, it's created by inner stability. The market can swing wildly, but if your mind is trained to operate from neutrality, those swings mean nothing more than probabilities unfolding. You stop needing to know what happens next. You start focusing on what you'll do regardless of what happens next. That is the mindset of a professional. The 90% who lose keep searching for new systems, indicators, and secret methods. They chase external answers to internal problems. They believe that if they can just find the perfect setup, they'll finally beat the market. But no system can compensate for emotional inconsistency. You can give two traders the same strategy, and one will succeed while the other fails, not because the system changed, but because the mind applying it did. One sees opportunity, the other sees threat. One executes, the other hesitates. One accepts risk, the other avoids it. The difference isn't knowledge, it's psychology. When you understand that, your trading begins to transform. You stop needing to force results. You stop interpreting losses as something to avenge. You begin to see the market for what it is, a mirror reflecting your internal state. If you're anxious, the market will feel chaotic. If you're greedy, it will always seem like you're missing out. If you're fearful, every trade feels dangerous. But when you learn to quiet the mind, to detach from the need to win, the market starts to reveal its rhythm. You no longer chase moves, you align with probabilities.
I have my
Consistency
micro.
doesn't
I mean,
come from
5 minutes.
prediction. It comes
How
from
did I go from?
self-awareness.
Oh, this how I got one. This
The
guy,
market
so I got
rewards the
four.
trader who can stay neutral in uncertainty. It punishes the one who reacts emotionally.
Damn.
The real edge isn't in information, it's in interpretation. It's not what you know about the market that matters, it's what you know about yourself while in it. Every tick, every fluctuation, tests your beliefs about patience, control, and surrender. If your beliefs are rooted in fear, you'll interpret the market as hostile. If they're rooted in confidence and acceptance,
Order
you'll see
filled.
opportunity everywhere. Losing traders constantly look for confirmation that they're right. They analyze every candle, every news headline, every opinion, seeking validation. But the market doesn't care about right or wrong, it only reflects behavior. The more attached you are to being right, the more painful trading becomes. Because markets are built on uncertainty, and the need for certainty is the very thing that destroys consistency. The winners think differently. They don't seek certainty, they manage uncertainty. They don't need to know what will happen next to act decisively.
So
They trust the
I'm in the
process
trim
more
mode.
than the outcome. They don't
I'm in
fight the
the
market.
trim mode. Let's
They
see if
flow
it.
with it. They understand that
Let's see
losses
what's
are
up.
not punishments but information. Every loss refines their understanding of themselves. They don't build their identity on winning, they build it on discipline. It's easy to think that emotional control means suppressing feelings, but it doesn't. It means being aware of them without letting them dictate behavior. Fear, greed,
This guy right
excitement,
there.
these emotions never disappear. You simply learn not to act from them. You learn to pause between impulse and action. That pause is where professional trading lives. It's where clarity replaces chaos, where objectivity replaces bias. The traders who master this understand that success is not about eliminating mistakes. It's about eliminating emotional attachment to mistakes. Once you stop judging yourself for every wrong move, your decisions become cleaner. You stop forcing trades, stop over-leveraging, stop revenge trading. You start following your plan not because you're rigid, but because you've learned the cost of emotional flexibility.
Still
At
in
some
trim mode.
point, you realize the market was never your opponent. It was your greatest teacher. It exposed every weakness you tried to hide, your impatience, your fear of loss, your desire for control. Every losing streak was a mirror showing where your mindset still needed discipline. The market
Might still
never
be in trim
punished you,
mode.
it simply reflected your current level of awareness. When you grow, your results grow. The difference between failure and mastery isn't in finding certainty, it's in accepting uncertainty. Once you stop expecting the market to behave according to your expectations, you stop being emotionally hostage to its movement. You start trading probabilities, not predictions. You start managing risk instead of avoiding it. You stop needing to win, and ironically, that's when winning begins. The truth is, the market never beats anyone. It can't. It's just movement, neutral, indifferent, infinite. What beats traders is the voice inside that can't let go of control. It's the belief that you can outthink randomness, the illusion that knowledge eliminates uncertainty, the fear that being wrong means you're less capable. The moment you let go of those illusions, you stop fighting the market, you stop fighting yourself. Trading success is a process of subtraction, not addition. You don't need more indicators. You need fewer emotional reactions. You don't need more information. You need less interpretation. You don't need to conquer the market. You need to stop trying to conquer it. When you master yourself, the market becomes effortless. So the next time you take a loss, don't ask, why did the market do this to me? Ask, what in me reacted to it? Because that's where the truth lies. It never has. It's your own untrained mind, the one seeking certainty, control, and validation that stands in the way. But once you face that truth, once you accept that the only real edge lies within, you stop being part of the crowd that loses. You rise above it, not because the market changed, but because you did. And when that happens, the noise fades. The charts stop feeling like chaos. Every tick becomes just another note in a larger rhythm, a rhythm you no longer need to control because you've learned how to flow with it. That's when you join the 10%. Not the ones who beat the market, but the ones who've stopped letting their mind beat them. The search for certainty is what draws most people into trading, and it's also what eventually destroys them. Every new trader begins with the same question: how can I know what will happen next? They spend hours studying charts, indicators, news reports, and expert opinions, all in pursuit of that single elusive thing, certainty. They believe that if they can just find the perfect signal or the perfect system, they'll never have to face the pain of being wrong again. Yet in the markets, certainty doesn't exist. It's an illusion, a comforting story the mind tells to escape discomfort. And ironically, the harder you chase it, the further you drift from consistency. The need for certainty is not logical, it's emotional. It comes from the human desire for control, for predictability, for safety. We've been conditioned since childhood to believe that good decisions produce good results and bad decisions produce bad results. But in trading, that belief collapses. You can make a perfect decision and still lose money. You can make a terrible decision and still win. The relationship between action and outcome isn't linear, it's probabilistic. Once you step into the market, you enter a world where the only constant is uncertainty. And until you learn to accept that, you will continue to sabotage yourself, even with the best strategy in the world. When a trader demands certainty, they set themselves up for emotional chaos. Every trade becomes a test of being right. Every tick that moves against them feels like a personal threat. They tighten stops, change targets, exit too early, or hold too long, all because their mind cannot accept that the future is unknowable. Instead of allowing probabilities to unfold, they react to every fluctuation, trying to impose order where there is none. In the end, they don't trade the market. They trade their fear of uncertainty. The illusion of certainty is seductive because it gives the illusion of control. It makes you believe that mastery means predicting direction, that confidence means being sure. But real mastery doesn't come from knowing what will happen next. It comes from knowing exactly how you'll respond no matter what happens next. The consistent trader doesn't seek to predict, they seek to prepare. They don't ask, will this trade work? They ask, if it doesn't, how much am I willing to lose? Their power doesn't come from foresight, it comes from self-awareness. Inconsistency begins the moment you start needing the market to validate your analysis. The moment you expect it to behave according to your beliefs, you hand over your emotional control. Because when the market moves differently, and it always will, you react with frustration, disbelief, or fear. You start second-guessing your system, tweaking your rules, abandoning your plan. Each emotional reaction becomes a small betrayal of your discipline, until eventually you're no longer trading probabilities, you're trading emotions. The consistent trader has made peace with randomness. They don't fear uncertainty because they understand it's built into the game. In fact, they use it to their advantage. While others panic over losing streaks, they remain calm because they see losses as part of the process. They don't need to be right, they need to execute correctly. They don't define success by the outcome of a single trade, but by the accuracy of their process over time. They've learned that consistency isn't about eliminating uncertainty, it's about becoming emotionally indifferent to it. The desire for certainty shows up in subtle ways. It hides behind overanalysis. You open 5 indicators on your screen, waiting for every signal to align perfectly. You scroll through news headlines, seeking reassurance before entering a position. You hesitate even when your setup is valid because something doesn't feel right. What you're really doing is trying to protect yourself from being wrong. You're trying to find proof that the market owes you a win. But that proof doesn't exist. Every trade is still a risk, no matter how perfect it looks. This constant search for certainty erodes confidence. You begin to rely on confirmation instead of conviction. The more you analyze, the more confused you become. The more you try to be sure, the less sure you feel. And that's the cruel paradox of trading. The need for certainty creates the very inconsistency you're trying to avoid. You hesitate, miss trades, then chase them out of frustration. You take impulsive entries, then cut them short out of fear. You start focusing on outcomes instead of process, which turns every loss into emotional punishment. The 10% who succeed understand that trading is not about prediction, it's about probabilities. Each trade is just one event in a long series of random outcomes. You don't need to know which ones will win. You only need to ensure that when they do, your winners are larger than your losers. That's how professionals think. They trade edge and expectancy, not emotion and ego. They understand that even with a 60% win rate, 40% of their trades will fail, and they're fine with it. They've learned that the goal isn't to avoid being wrong, but to make being wrong irrelevant. Consistency is a psychological state, not a technical one. It's born from acceptance, the full, unconditional acceptance that anything can happen.
No,
When you
sir.
truly accept that, you stop resisting
Here you
losses,
go on
stop
Trimbo.
forcing
It turned
trades,
up.
stop trying to control outcomes. You become free to follow your plan with clarity and detachment. You no longer measure progress by immediate results, but by the quality of your decisions. The market stops being a threat. It becomes a mirror, showing how well you've mastered yourself. Many traders believe that more knowledge equals more certainty. They spend years collecting strategies, attending courses, testing indicators. But knowledge without emotional control becomes another form of illusion. You can know everything about technical patterns and still lose if you cannot tolerate uncertainty. In fact, the more you know, the more your mind will seek perfection, making it even harder to act decisively.
Let's see.
Knowledge can sharpen skill, but it can also amplify fear if
Oh,
not
yeah.
grounded in acceptance. The consistent trader doesn't try to eliminate uncertainty. They embrace it. They know that every trade has an unknown outcome, and that's perfectly fine. They trade not because they know, but because they've defined what will happen if they're wrong. That's real confidence, acting with calm in the face of the unknown. It's the difference between gambling and professional execution. The gambler believes in luck, the professional believes in process. There's a subtle freedom that comes from no longer needing to be certain. You begin to trade with lightness. You take a setup, follow your rules, and let the market decide. Win or lose, you don't feel emotional turbulence. You know that one trade doesn't define you. You know that success isn't measured by the outcome of the next position, but by the consistency of your mindset over thousands of them. When you reach that level of emotional maturity, trading stops feeling like survival. It starts feeling like expression.
submitted.
Certainty feeds illusion, but uncertainty feeds growth. Every time the market behaves unexpectedly, it gives you a chance to confront your beliefs. It reveals where you still resist reality, where you still cling to control. The traders who evolve use uncertainty as their teacher. They don't avoid discomfort. They use it to build resilience. They don't seek to be right. They seek to understand their reactions to being wrong. At the core, the illusion of certainty is the ego's way of protecting itself. The ego equates being wrong with being weak, and being uncertain with being unprepared. But trading demands the opposite. It requires humility, adaptability, and acceptance. You can't force the market to obey your analysis, but you can train your mind to remain stable within unpredictability. That's the real work. It's not about predicting what's next. It's about being unshaken no matter what comes next. When you let go of certainty, something powerful happens. Fear begins to fade. You stop feeling pressure to win. You stop